So she lives in the same society. I know her pehle se as since was 14. I used to play with a friend who was her sister's son. We were in the same academy. And she used to play tennis at the time in the same complex. So she used to pick us after the practice oftentimes, although the friend and I drifted over the years. I would still chit-chat with her whenever we crossed paths in the society or in the complex. She would complimented me oftentimes over the years. Few were just here and there like aur batao kitni pata rakhi hai, lol. She is quite frank tbh and easy to talk to. Her husband is an NRI and is currently based in Australia. I always used to fantasize about her during teenage years. I remember back in 2019 uploaded an WhatsApp status with a group of female friends and she replied in "Mein se kaun si wali teri hai? Which one of these is your GF? Said no one. To which she replied "Aisa ho hi nahi sakta lol" and gathered some courage and threw a response "Aapke jaisi dhundani padegi XD." At this point my heartbeat went through the roof, to which she replied "Ahan." Still remember it was 9:43 at night at that point. And as was gathering my senses, what to say next, she replied at 9:45 "Main to yahi hu 2 minute ki duri pe" with emoji. I guess that was my cue but still couldn't gather much strength, so said "ha ha ha," and that didn't went much ahead. A week later in evening at 7 p.m. she called me and said "Koi aaya hai, come to my place." I didn't knew how to respond, so said "Acha theek hai." Maybe was thinking too much at that point. I went to her floor. I could hear multiple people were in there. I rang the doorbell and it was my friend who used to play with me in the academy. I was invited in. It was him, her older sister and her mom. They were pretty chill. They offered me coke and snacks. And vertical bar went on the terrace with my friend to catch up. After that we went back and an conversation took up as us being a ladies' men, to which a little banter went on. And she said "Iski to 2 to 3 hai," laughed so hard and said "No. Aisa kuch nahi hai, they aren't my types, blah blah." To which from the corner of the room she replied "Hame pata hai, what's your type?" as she took sip from her glass looking at me. Damn, was little turned on by the way she said it. She was wearing a black kurta and looked smoking hot, so as the evening came to end, I went with the guy downstairs and they left. As we said bye, I looked at her and said bye to her as well. To which she replied "Itni jaldi kya hai, kisi se milna hai?" in a playful way. I said nahi and laughed it off. I then pretended to check my pocket and said "Left my scooty keys upar high shyd." Which was a lie, didn't carry it with me in the first place. So went up with her. As we were walking on the stairs, she was in front of me. Her perfect thick was a sight. Just wanted to grab that, so but the just thinking about it gave me a boner. As we went up she opened the gate. I went in. She looked the door and said "Dekho kaha pyar hai." Walked past me, picked a plate and walked into the kitchen. Didn't know what to do or how to initiate, so said "Mil gayi." She said "Acha ye plates wagera rakhwa do. Akeli ladki kaise sambhalegi itna kaam?" So picked a tray and few plates and brought them in the kitchen. She was standing near the sink. Her hair were tied up. We were chatting a bit. She was being a little touchy on the arm and chest. Didn't knew how to respond. She then asked "Would you like to watch Harry Potter?" Was a little confused and said "Wo to bacho wali hai," to which she replied "Oh. Ab to kuch aur dekhta hoga." With a smiling face. I gathered some courage and said "I need some variety in life now. College mein pahunch gaya hu." Was standing very close to her at this point. She said "Show me what's your taste then." IDK what took over me, leaned my arm across her and kissed her on the cheek close to the lips. My heart was racing at such a pace, thought it would fell out of my chest. She smiled, turned around, looked at me. Her hands were a little wet. Pulled me from my t-shirt and kissed me. Her hands were running through my hair which were still wet. I then started moving my hands around her back, grabbing her as she moaned and bit my lips so her they smooched around her neck and she went nuts. We found our way back to the living room. I was rock hard at this point and she could feel it. We made out passionately for 10 minutes when she grabbed my dick and said fuck me. Still remember that tone. At the time it felt like was in a dream. Undid her pajamas and her panty was soaking wet. Inserted a finger. Did it for a few strokes. She was already coming, couldn't wait any longer. I pulled out my dick. My undies were not even removed properly, they were hanging in my ankle as pushed my inside her and she moaned so loud. She was so fucking wet all over my cock. Few strokes in she was flooding, couldn't carry on for much longer, knew it was so fucking hot. She wrapped her legs around my waist as stroked my inside her, moaning my name. I came within 3 to 4 minutes inside her and laid on top of her. She kissed me hard again, and we laid there for 10 to 15 minutes after it. Later that night sneaked out of the house and went to her place to take her again. And I've been doing her ever since. 5 years and counting.